I actually don't think that many website owners know that if they are doing ads in this traditional way and tracking then the performance of their website in the traditional way, that they are actually helping their competitors.
Okay, Michael, as always, we are live.
We are live. How are you doing, Martin?
I'm doing awesome. What about you, Michael?
I'm doing okay. I think we do another episode of eCommerce Undercover today?
We should always. We should.
Yeah, as usual, it's like the United Nations here. We've got a guy from Germany.
That's right.
A guy from France,
Yeah.
which always makes me nervous, and a guy from, I don't know where I'm from actually anymore.
How do you, what would you say?
I think I'm Japanese.
You are more Japanese?
I think I'm more Japanese. Somebody said to me today, hey, are you from the United States? And I was like, not really.
Not really. That's interesting.
I wasn't sure what to say. I haven't been there in almost 12 years.
12 years? You didn't
Physically have not been there.
And it's been a while since you're in Asia as well.
32.
Yeah, so that's most of your life has been in Asia, basically.
Not half yet.
Yeah, not half yet. So maybe.
Even Matthias is laughing. Should we welcome Matthias Reinholz
We should.
to the show? Matthias is the CEO and the founder of Qreuz, and he's using what I call internet spelling, I think, to name his company. Is that fair, Matthias? Internet spelling? You know what I mean, right? Like it's not really spelled like Qreuz.
Well, depends on where you are, yeah. So, so actually, the history of the name of this company is very simple, yeah. So, already almost 10 years ago, I started with digital marketing consultancy services here in Berlin, and I actually lived in the district of Kreuzberg, and I loved it. Yeah, it's a very cool district here in Berlin. And so I simply named my company after this district, but I replaced the K in the beginning with a Q. So it was Kreuzberg, but with a Q. Yeah.
Oh, I love it. So it's actually a real thing.
Yeah, yeah. So and then when it came to founding this new company, Qreuz, my goal is always to find names for digital companies that are relatively short and where you obviously get a .com domain that is free. Yeah.
Right.
And my dream is always to find or to be able to purchase a really cool 3 or 4 digit .com domain, but I simply didn't have the money for this. Yeah. So I had to go for five digits. Yeah. And that's how we started with Qreuz. Yeah. So, and actually if you would be in Germany and you would be German, then you would actually read it Qreuz, and it would mean cross. Yeah. So but still with a Q instead of the K. Yeah. But obviously in English then it's Qreuz. Yeah. And
I love it.
What we actually did, we did some tests because some years ago we went actually with the same name but different business concept. We went to the Web Summit in Lisbon, and I was asking random original, so English native speakers, how they would pronounce his name. Yeah. And actually everybody said Qreuz. Yeah. And this for me was then okay to say, okay, if they pronounce it in the right way, from my point of view, then we can use this name.
What would you have done if they had said Qreuz?
Then I would be impressed. But I would have more expected something like some weird stuff you cannot understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I do love when there's a story around the name. And your strategy is way better than mine. If you look at all the websites I own, they have like 17 characters. It's like 15 because I didn't understand what I was doing when I was doing it.
May also be okay, depending if it's a descriptive name, that may be fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, for this website, it's eCommerce Undercover. So I always like to say it's in the name.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't know what this show's about, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
Right. So can you do me a favor? Can you give us a little bit of your background, right? You talked about getting into sort of digital advertising, I think, but who are you? Like, what are you doing?
So yeah, I'm a mixture of a business guy and a developer, I would say. Yeah. Cool. So from my educational background, I'm classical business guy. So actually I started in the music industry in the early days of my career. But from my passion, I always was a digital guy, and also very well connected to I wouldn't necessarily call it really software development in the early days, because it was more like web topics, but I was always very, very close to the whole WordPress ecosystem. And I always had this dream of building my own technology. But I always had the problem that CTOs were just way too expensive for me to really found a great company. So at some point, I simply said, okay, now I have to go and dive into this topic much more, and learn software development to an extent that I can also start projects like this and lead a development team for this. Yeah.
Wow. So do you program now? Did you do that study that you just talked about, so you can lead a development team?
Yeah.
That's super cool. Yeah. Really cool. Can I ask you this? You're in Berlin.
Yes.
And I've heard all these stories about like how vibrant the startup ecosystem is in Berlin. Can you give me just a little bit of insight into what you've seen happen maybe over the last 10, 15 years? Do you know what I mean? Because I don't know anybody that's in Berlin. I'm just curious.
So this is, I would say, also still the primary reason why I am here in Berlin. Yeah. Even though we have to say that maybe right now the times for startups in Berlin are more complicated than I would say 10 years ago, because 10 years ago it really felt like being here on the most hipster place on earth to have a startup. Yeah, and somehow Berlin was really compared with all the super big cities of the world where startups were taking place. Yeah. But then I would say that in the last years we can definitely feel that there are some other big capitals in Europe who really invested a lot into doing startup ecosystems. I'm especially looking at Paris and Amsterdam, for example, where really there was super great development in the past years. And today I have to say I'm also looking with being a little bit jealous to those places where some things are easier. So there is not a single week where I don't see a LinkedIn post where some non-German founders or investors are complaining about how complicated it is to found and operate a company in Germany. When you look at the bureaucracy topics, I have to say, if you know how it works, it is not complicated to do it here. But obviously I cannot compare because I never tried to found a company in France or so. Yeah, I heard it's much easier, but I don't know from experience. Yeah.
I would be very surprised, to be honest, if it's much easier.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I think about bureaucratic places, I don't think about Germany. I think about like Germany should be, in my mind, just feels easy. That's why I asked you about it. But Martin can probably say this. I feel like France is like filled with bureaucracy.
I think it's the heaven for bureaucratic people. Like if they want to fulfill papers and create forms and complicate things and ask for questions. I think France is awesome when it comes to paper stuff. But yeah, I launched a few companies in France and it was not that complicated. Maybe like, as you say, like once you know how it works and and once you know the flow and you understand, then it's not that hard, but yeah, it's a lot of paperwork for sure.
But here's my feeling on this, right? A lot of people say that it's hard to start a company in Thailand. I lived in Thailand for the past 10 years and I'm not Thai. In a way, I look at that as kind of a badge of honor because I like the fact that it's hard, a little bit harder. I'm not saying it is in Germany. And the reason why is because a lot of people that are kind of on the margin just give up. Yeah. Do you know what I mean, Matthias? They're like, too hard. But building a startup, and I want to talk to you a little bit about this too, but like building a business from scratch is hard. Yeah. And a lot of people do give up just because of the difficulty, right? So if you're in the venture business, whether it's on the marketing side or actually in the venture building side, you're happy when people give up in a way, because that at the bottom of the funnel, then you only have the best people.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But on the other hand, I also have to say, because I spend a lot of time in analyzing the question how to increase the chances for a startup to be successful. I also wrote my master's thesis about this topic, for example, and I also was part of other startups before, and from my experience, it's a major factor for success for startups is how fast or how quickly are they able to actually really interact with customers. yeah, and really get something like a business, yeah, and not only an idea but a business, yeah. And if you have to waste so much time in writing business plans, in going to or in doing legal contracts around the company, in handling the tax office topics, and then also really what I also from my experience have seen very often in spending too much time in creating fancy pitch decks and trying to talk to investors. Yeah, this is also the KO for any startup. Yeah, in the end, it's only about being or creating an actual business and interacting with customers. And
I could not agree with you more. I literally want to stand up and cheer. I'm not kidding. Martin and I talk about this all the time, but like the only way to run a business is to, let me just think about how I would say this, do a business.
Yeah. Have a product, have a service to talk to customer, right?
Yeah.
And you said it very well. Like the earliest you can interact with customers, you can like know first of all if there's a market for it. You can have feedback. You can like get like real time, feedback on what you should improve, what goes right, what goes wrong, and then just build upon that, right? So we could not agree more with you, Matthias.
Yeah. So one of the other things I think about, particularly as there are, I don't know, 1 billion websites, and if you look at startup communities around the world, they're also competing with incumbent businesses too. And I have this thing I like to talk about called discovery, right? You could literally have the best business in the world with, excuse me, the best business plan, the best product, all this kind of stuff. But if you can't get discovered, you're kind of operating in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Right? So how do you get discovered in a world where information just kind of flows around the world and it seems to just like fly past people's eyes in a way that makes it really hard to understand like what's good, what's bad, and what's relevant? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely complicated. Yeah.
So
that's also one of the questions that we are right now working at Qreuz, because we are just in the phase where we after a very long time of development, we finally have a product that I consider as ready. Yeah, and not only beta stage, but really ready. And so for us, this is exactly right now the I would say the most important topic to work on in the company. Yeah? So how can we get this covered, and how can we get people to the website to inform themselves more about what we are actually doing?
Yeah, but how do you? So I don't know that much about the way this technology works, but I'm always clicking on something that says we have cookies here, we have tracking here, and all this other stuff. And I have this philosophy about the online world has to morph at some level into what the offline world is like. And let me give you an example, and you can then comment on it. If I go into a store, right, and I want a pair of Nikes that are size, I don't forget what my size is, 8.5 or 9, right? And I want them in blue with like a yellow stripe on it. It's pretty straightforward. I go to the guy or the gal who's running the sneaker or the trainer department. I tell him that, and I can't find anything I like, so I leave. To me, I feel like on the internet, once I leave, there's a guy following me, tapping me on the shoulder constantly, saying, hey, I got sneaks over here, sneaks over here. Please come with me, follow me, you come back over here.
Yeah.
In a way, I feel like it's like Orwellian. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually also very close to the picture I always try to paint when I try to explain how the whole concept of tracking online works and what I think is fundamentally wrong about it. Yeah.
Tell me.
So I always say that just think about if you go to a store, to a physical store, you would absolutely expect that the store owner, who may sit somewhere in the store and look at people walking around, may have an idea about, okay, today I had 100 people in my store. Yeah, and you would also be absolutely okay with this store owner know some fundamental things, like, for example, okay, I've seen that many people go to this area of the store, but nobody was looking at this product. Yeah?
Right.
So these are just fundamental things that are absolutely, I would say, not problematic when it comes to data privacy of the customers. Yeah.
No.
But somehow on the internet, we came to a standard where it's normal that in the store, every person coming into the store will get a tag attached, and then some third-party AI-supported drones are following this person in their whole life from now on. Yeah, and
But
I
that's
don't
the
know
thing,
why.
even
yeah?
outside the store, this is
Exactly,
happening.
exactly.
That's
And
gotta
that's
be wrong.
and that's the problem, because these tracking companies are just market standards, and they are so big that they're actually on every single website on earth. And that makes it possible for them to just track people across the whole online browsing experiences. And this is where the data privacy problematic comes into the game. And the thing is, from a website owner's perspective, all of this would not be necessary, because as a website owner, I don't need to feed the systems of those tracking companies with data to be able to have some statistical information about my website, not even to be able to understand and measure what marketing campaigns drove the performance to my website. But the thing is, to get my data into the systems where I can see these things, I have to use those tracking technologies, and they are all working in the same way. Because in the end, you also have to think about it. Who is offering tracking technology? Yeah, it's
Right.
always in the end companies who are operating ad networks or similar business models, and
Yep.
they make their money because they have profiles about users. They make their money because they know exactly what user is doing when on the internet, what they like, when they, at what time of the day. The chances high that they are doing purchases, because with these profiles, they are able to optimize the delivery of their ads, and in the end, they're able to make more money with it. Yeah.
But again, in the real world, right? And this is why I think that the online world, at some level, has to mirror the offline world. And I'll give you another example why, and I want to know what you think. In the online world, I can have a server factory that has hundreds, if not thousands, if not 10,000s of fake IDs. I don't have to be a real person. And then I can swarm a site, if I own the site, to make it look like I have a lot of people visiting. I can trick the ad networks into thinking that different things are happening, or vice versa. The ad networks can trick advertisers so that then they can take money for stuff that's not really happening. Imagine in the in the offline world, where I could just have a bunch of avatars or
friends just go into a store.
but just like hundreds of people come into a store and all go and look at my product.
Yeah.
And all ask questions about my product. How much for like Michael's Donuts or whatever it is? But not buying anything, but just like looking at them. And then at the end of the day, thousands of people came in and looked at Michael's Donuts. But that in the real world, that doesn't happen, yeah?
Actually, it made me think about a story like the girl Sarah Blakely who was paying.
Spanx.
This is exactly what she did at first. So,
Yeah, she had people go into the store
like
and
she
ask
was paying people to go to the store and to buy her stuff, and she was creating like momentum this way, because that she was having like 10, 20, 50 friends who are doing this at the same day.
And then she says she
to
never
go buy her
paid for
stuff.
marketing.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, that was.
Do you know how in the offline world previously music sales worked? Yeah. So
No.
it was essential for selling a lot of your music, of your album, of your singles. It was essential to be on top of the charts.
Yeah.
So there was not only once the story where it was seen that some producer or label was going to stores and purchasing their own CDs to get them up in the charts to in the end sell more. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Sarah Blakely.
Sarah Blakely as well, yeah.
I don't do any marketing. I never paid for marketing. Yeah. But so I think about this too. And I don't know why I was thinking about it today. But Nielsen was a company that would like measure stuff in the United States. And it would, they'd say like number one in the Nielsen ratings for television shows. And what they'd do is they would actually put boxes, this is back in the analog days, right, into the homes of, let's say, 12 or 1,300 people. And those people would agree to have those boxes in their homes, and they would connect to the TV station. So whenever they watched something, it would record it, right? And they knew who was in the household, right? And then they would use that to extrapolate data for what all of America was watching. So they would say things like 35 million people watched the Super Bowl, or 40 million people watched Happy Days in the 70s, right? But those were real people. Now, I'm sure that was rigged a little bit, but not like it is today, no?
No, well, this is a little bit a different concept, because in the end, in this type of offline world, it wasn't possible to connect to all users at the same time, and then you
Right.
had to do this type of statistical methods. Yeah, so we still have the same type of system for measuring TV reach in Germany. Yeah,
Sure.
and because in the end, also what was maybe the primary reason also for implementing this, because the TV stations also want to sell ads. And to be able to know how much they are able to charge for it, and know that they have to know their reach. Yeah, so that means they have to find some kind of scientific method to measure it. And this obviously still, I think, is the best way to do it in the offline world. Yeah, you take a subset of the whole audience, which hopefully is representative, and then you can try to find out what is the total reach.
But I want to get back to this concept you had before, that there are these big companies that sit on top of everything that benefit from having all this data, but the website owners themselves don't really need to do it, but they need to be inside this system. So what's the better way? And there's a lot of stuff happening, right? Particularly in Europe. We can get to that in a bit. But what's the better way for any individual website owner, even a big website owner, to not use cookies, not do all the stuff that exists today, but still get discovered, but also still understand which part of their marketing stack isn't working?
So the thing is, the response or the answer to this problem is not just a simple one, because you simply cannot just replace something with a different technology and then it will be working. Yeah, you have to take some further steps to make a complete transition in your marketing. I would say, to be able to go. And I would not necessarily say cookie free, because in the end, I don't know why this was, but somehow the cookie became the equivalent of surveillance technology. But in the end, the cookie is not the enemy here. Yeah. For me, the real problematic thing is more the hidden background connections that are being initiated by browsers all the time. Yeah? Cookies in the end are only a technical stuff in the browser that allow a server to identify the browser when it comes back. Yeah. So if you would go to a website now and tomorrow and in 3 weeks again, a cookie would help them to understand that it's always you. Yeah. And or it's always your device and your browser. Yeah. But when it comes to this surveillance topic, and this is from a data privacy perspective, the problematic thing, then the bigger issue here are the hidden background connections. So when you go to almost any website on earth and you then open in your browser the development tools, right click, inspect, and then you have the dev tools open, and you would then go to the networking tab. You would always see a ton of different domains being called. Yeah. So when you go to a website, then I would say that the regular online user with no technical knowledge would expect that my device right now is communicating with the server of this website. But that's not what's happening on the internet. Yeah, what's happening is you go to a website and your device is communicating with this server of the website, but also with 10, 20 different other servers, which have nothing to do from a company, from a affiliation perspective with this company. Yeah, so they are CDNs, they are tracking tools, they are whatever CRM tools scraping data, then fundamental stuff like, for example, Google Fonts. Yeah, so people are using external services to embed fonts in their website instead of hosting them by themselves. But the result is, upon every single page view of this website, the browser of the visitor initiates a connection to Google servers to ask for the font file. Yeah, so and then obviously this offers them to be in a position to also track data about people asking for the font file. Yeah. So there was just a court decision in Germany lately about the problematic topic of using Google Fonts actually on your website. Yeah.
What's the problem though? In other words, so a couple of questions here, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
I go to Martin's fancy e-commerce site.
Yeah.
Martin's selling watches.
You always tell this example.
It's the only thing I can think of. Plus, I just got a watch and I'm so happy about it. But I go to his website. In the background, you're saying there are like 20 or who knows how many other connections. All I really want to do as a consumer, as a person who's browsing the web, is just see the watches, know what the price is, know
Correct.
like when the delivery date is going to be. CDN, I get it maybe because it makes it faster. Let's say his site is in France and I live in Ohio.
Yeah.
The CDN should make it faster, so fair enough. And maybe he's signed up for the CDN and maybe for the fonts as well. But how about all those other things? A couple of questions, right? All those other services that are connected on the back end that I don't see, do I as a website owner opt into that? Or are they just connecting universally across the web without my permission to get that data that I'm not giving to them per se? Do you know what I mean? Or do I have
Well-
to say, or do I have to connect to it? Because if I don't connect to it, I'm like dark on the web. Do you know what I mean?
You don't have to connect to them. Yeah. So the thing is, the website owners are just using them because it's normal to use them today. Yeah. So because it's also convenient. Yeah. So there are many companies offering services that are just built in a way that you simply take their small JavaScript snippet, add it to the website's code, and then it's working. Yeah. So there are tons of potential use cases, but here in our context, I would say the most important one is the one about tracking. Yeah. And when we talk about tracking, there are always two different things that websites want to do with it. The one is statistical data about what's going on the website. This is a typical use case where still most people are using Google Analytics for it. Just pure information about how many people come to my website, where are they from, what was the source, so were they coming through search,
Yep.
were they coming through social media, were they coming through whatever marketing campaign, and then trying to find out how the performance of the website was and why. And the second thing that is very big in this stuff integrated in the websites is conversion tracking stuff. Yeah, so especially in e-commerce, yeah, it's then about forwarding the information, for example, to Facebook ads or Google ads about this person has right now added an item to the cart. This person has right now checked out and purchased for 55 euros in my store. Yeah, so and here. This in the end, this is very important also for e-commerce marketing, because what happens is that by forwarding this data to the ad companies, it gets possible to start with this what you just described as following you over the whole internet. Yeah, because then they know that you have looked at this specific item, and then they are able to send you ads about exactly this item all the time. Yeah.
Do you mean my ads or me selling watch or like any kind of ads? Like for example, I have an e-commerce site selling super good watches, and I have my Facebook pixel, and I have also my Google Analytics pixel because I'm doing ads on Facebook and I want to know what's going on. So do you mean like all the data that is going through my site to these big companies are then used by these companies to show ads? Of course, my ads because I pay for it, but I guess as well other people ads, which are my competitors, right? Or ads that are related to that because I just told Facebook, I just told Google that those person are interested into watches because they're coming to my site, they added stuff to their cart. So now they're gonna try to sell to this customer not only my products, but also competitors' products, right?
Exactly. So, and actually, you are one of the first persons I'm ever hearing about speaking this in this way. Yeah, because I actually don't think that many website owners know that if they are doing ads in this traditional way and tracking then the performance of their website in the traditional way, that they are actually helping their competitors. Yeah? Because you are visiting now any online shop and looking at a very specific item. Let's now say at this the blue watch. Yeah. Then Facebook knows, okay, you are right now interested in purchasing a blue watch. What happens now, obviously, is that if the advertiser and the owner of the website is spending enough money, that they are going to show the ads for exactly the same shop again and again and again and again to you. But what also happens is that if there is another advertiser spending more money than you, or even the same money than you, they are going to show their ads to your potential customer. Yeah, because they know that this person is interested in purchasing this type of item. So let's show them from their perspective the best possible ads. Yeah, because also when you look at it from a social media's perspective, yeah, so they also have an interest in showing their audience the best possible posts and ads all the time. They don't want to show them crap all the time. Yeah, and what is from their perspective best quality content is the content that people spend a lot of time with, that people interact with, and that in the end helps them to make their own audience happy. Yeah. So as a result, you exactly said the right thing. Yeah. So the whole topic of helping these systems understand how to sell something for your competition is a very complex topic here. And therefore, and from my point of view, any website owner and any especially online shop owner should have a big interest in stopping this surveillance-based tracking stuff, because in the end, especially in the early stages of acquisition funnels, all money they're spending there is helping the competition to grow.
Yeah, again, it almost feels like, excuse me, it almost feels like you want to open up a pizza shop right next to the most famous pizza shop in town. As a matter of fact, you want to open up 6 of them and then just keep lowering the price. Right? Because they're already doing the advertising for you. Yeah. People are already coming to their store. And if their pizza's that good, well, maybe they'll just go, never mind, I'll get a pizza next door because it's faster. Yeah. It just seems like a bad way to run a business. So how do you fix this? Like, because you said earlier, and I thought it was interesting, you don't have to do this to get discovered. So what can you do?
But just maybe
go ahead.
Before we go there, I have one more question, because I know you have a lot of solution, Matthias, and I would like to go there just after that.
Go ahead.
Because I think we just like point a very big problem for e-commerce, and I don't think like many online stores owners knows that.
No, they don't. Go ahead.
And I would like to know, like, is there other things that you see from your point of view?
Yeah, good question.
That we should know, like online stores owners should know, and that they don't, and then we can talk about.
It's a really good question, though, right? Because like we've identified this thing.
Yeah, is there like other things?
Well, how about the other things that they should know
like
that's happening?
Other issues, other things that you see that e-commerce store owners should know.
Well, the thing is, I think that this is definitely when it comes to spending money on ads and acquisition, and that's I think still the most important source of sales for most online shops. And this is definitely the biggest problem I see here, and the biggest problem that we also have identified already when it comes to traditional tracking technologies. But definitely also I see a big issue coming up when it comes to the whole topic of the cookie banners, because when you still today when you go to most online shops, you will see that they are technically not legally correctly implementing their consent banners. So still today, I see many online shops with a cookie banner still only saying, we are using cookies and hereby we are informing you about this.
Yeah.
And this has absolutely nothing to do with what in the European Union. And when you look at it, then it's in the European Union, we are I would say maybe the region where this whole topic is already the most advanced, but there are other regions in the world which are also very quickly now jumping onto this data privacy topic. Where I just look at California, I look at Brazil, I look at Canada. So there are also things going on that are going in the same direction. And when you look at it, because just recently I wrote an article about the whole topic of how to shift your marketing. And then I was also looking into the history of data privacy regulation in Europe. And I was really surprised to find out that already in 1997, there was from the European Union, there was a privacy regulation, which when you look at it, didn't say so much different than GDPR. It was a little bit different words, some different things, but it was not so much different than today. And the thing is, the internet just didn't care. Nobody cared about it. Nobody really followed the law. And to me, it's a really big surprise. And I don't really know why this was possible. So we have in Germany, we have a big culture of lawyers suing random companies for doing small legal mistakes in whatever. But still here, so many companies are just not strictly following the law. And I think the biggest reason why maybe it is because just most people don't understand the technologies behind. That's also maybe the reason why the word cookie seems like to be the big enemy here. Even though when you look at it, the cookie is not the big enemy. The cookie is just one technology.
That's got to be the title of the show, is the cookie's not the enemy.
Yeah. That's also something I keep repeating. So,
I like it.
And also, by the way, that's also a very good news. Yeah. So there have been not only one, but multiple court decisions across Europe where there was clearly said that you can use cookies on your website without any cookie notice banner. Yeah. The question is just what cookies you're using. Yeah. So if you're talking about technically necessary cookies that are not doing anything regarding collecting data from your visitors and not doing anything regarding helping tracking systems to identify them, there's a high chance you don't need any cookie banner on your website. Yeah? But the problem is that most websites are just using the other side of the cookie world, and because also we have to say that until today, most of the surveillance-based tracking approaches are using cookies because it's just the easiest way to identify a browser if it comes back. Yeah. But even if we delete cookies, the good news here or the bad news for websites is that even the cookie-free approaches for tracking are very often not in the end a way of doing tracking that would help you to get rid of the cookie banner on your website. Yeah? Because then it's technically not a cookie banner anymore, but it's a consent banner. Yeah? Because even the cookie-free tracking technologies very often rely on stuff like fingerprinting, because in the end, it's always the same thing. Yeah. So the companies offering tracking technology are selling ads, so they need to collect the data. They need to get this data. And if they don't get it, they couldn't have their business model operating in the same way than before. So they're doing obviously everything they can to get as much data, and especially the behavioral data about every single internet user. Yeah? Because in the end, the more data they have, the more the better their business model works. Yeah. So that's the reason why the biggest companies in this ecosystem are the ones that are just on that are just on almost any website. Yeah. And there's a reason why Google is the biggest company in this ecosystem. It is because they're just offering the best technology in this way, for this purpose, and it is because they are implemented in almost any website with some kind of technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have Google Fonts, they have Google Analytics, and they have like tons of other things from Google that are free that you might love and you want to install on your e-commerce site or any kind of site, and then you just feed Google with tons of information that then they can resell to advertisers, competitors, or any kind of people. So I think that's such a fascinating topic to me, because we like to talk about this idea of a Trojan horse business, right? When you do something and then you use the data that you get to create a new service, a new product, and sell to your existing audience, right? And this is exactly what happens here. Like, they are giving you analytics for free. It's awesome. You love it, and then they use all this data to do something else. And like, thank you very much for like explaining to us everything that you know about that, Matthias. So now I think we can ask you, like, what's the solution? Like, what do we do about that, and how do we do better?
So the first thing is that when you look at what's currently going on here in Europe, then you will very often come, especially in the last weeks, come across messages like this or that country has now banned the use of Google Analytics. Yeah? Because right now we have some legal stuff going on here, where especially one lawyer company here in Europe is trying to really put an end to the use of Google Analytics across Europe. So you will also see a lot of stuff going on where companies are trying to offer alternatives to it. Yeah? But in the same way that I say the cookie is not the enemy, I also always say Google is not the enemy. Yeah? Because Google is also a great company, and I also just said that one reason why they are the biggest company in this area is also because they simply offer the best technology. Yeah. So from my point of view, it would always be a very hard decision to try to find an alternative to Google Analytics and to use something else, because everything else, there are great other tools. I don't want to neglect this. Yeah. But it's just, I always prefer to use the best tool out there. Yeah. And if it's free, then definitely I want to use it. Yeah.
But
so,
it's not free,
and therefore,
but it's not, can I interrupt you for a second? Sorry. I use Google Analytics, and now I'm starting to think that I would actually pay for something to do the same job so that all my data then didn't get sent to Google, which then they could sell on to people so that they could put ads.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
You're paying with your customers' data for it in the end.
That's my
You're right.
point, though. But I'd rather pay in money so that at least I know what that cost is, right? Because right now, I and everybody else in the world, here's the thing, and I think this changes over time, and I'll tell you why. And you tell me, because you're the technologist, I'm just the idiot on the other end of the microphone.
Asking questions.
Asking questions. I'm just the guy with questions. You're the guy with all the answers. But isn't there sort of a self-sovereign way to solve this in the same way that you can do like gaming companies and gaming yields, where it's like you get paid to you earn, you play to earn, you learn to earn. Can't I just sell my data to Google if they really want it that badly? And there's an arbitrage where getting my data actually turns them into $1 billion business. Shouldn't I be getting paid something for it so they pay me for my data? Because this is what's happening in the gaming industry. Yeah. I talk to a lot of people there, right? If you look at Yield Guild Games and other companies like this, they're building guilds that are managed by DAOs, right? So distributed autonomous organizations that then give the profits, or 70% of the profits for the gaming, back to the people that are playing them, so they're playing to earn. Can't we do like data analysis to earn as well and disintermediate some of these big companies and take away some of the money that's going to them so that we get paid for the data that we generate?
What do you think? How many websites and how many end consumers would pay for it?
Oh, they don't have to pay for it. I'm saying they should get paid for it. So in other words, right now, if I go play Axie Infinity and I win the game or I do well in the game, I get paid. Right? And I get paid because they track me playing, but also because I then create other Axies which then can get sold. There are parts of the game where I actually build into the game as well. But my playing earns me money. So the data that I'm generating, I have all these podcasts and all these websites and stuff like that. I'm gathering all this data for Google, applying to Google Analytics. They take all my data. I get nothing for it. How can I get them, or how can we then create a system where we create these guilds where I get paid for the data and they take 30% of it as opposed to 100% of the money that they're making for it? Because that's what's happening in the gaming industry. Yeah.
But if you look at it from this perspective, then you have to say that already today you're getting paid. Yeah. The website owner is getting paid by being able to use Google Analytics for free. The end consumer is getting paid by being able to use Google Chrome for free. Yeah. And don't have to pay anything for this software. Yeah. So in the end, this is the deal that most people have done. Yeah. So we don't pay for software in exchange for not knowing that we are actually paying for it with our data. Yeah. So
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, but you're right. Like, we have no idea how much we pay because we have ourselves a very hard time to put a number of the data that we send, and most of the people just that don't know actually like how that they send in data, but so they don't know, and then we don't know how to put the numbers of that. So maybe we can either make a new deal and say, okay, I send you data, but you pay me, or we can go to a solution, say, yeah, like, you don't send my data to anyone, and I pay you for that. Like, I can pay for Google Analytics and I keep all my data myself.
Yeah, I mean, I just have a gigantic business idea. If I only had a pen right now, I'd write it down.
You want a pen?
No, I'm not a pen stealer. If you had a watch,
so in the end,
I'd take it.
In the end, there are really cool web tracking or web analytics tools that are paid and that are doing exactly this. Yeah, so they are tracking the data in a privacy compliant way. They are trying to not collect any personal data of any users, and they're offering you an analytics dashboard to help you with most things that you need. Yeah, and this is also a perfect solution for most websites, I would say. Yeah, so there is, for example, one tool that I want to highlight here because they're really cool. It's called Phantom Analytics, and so these are really, really cool solutions that I also definitely recommend everybody who really only has the need to do analytics with it, and is willing also to migrate to a different tool. Because migration also always comes obviously with some work to do and some learning curve you have to go through. But there are cool tools for this, and you can use them, and they are all working very hard to be also privacy compliant in the best possible way, so that it's possible to use them without any type of consent. Yeah.
Interesting.
Phantom Analytics.
Yeah, with an F in the beginning.
Yeah, I'm sure. Just like the Q. Yeah, so I'm definitely going to try that out, and I'll put a link to that in the show notes as well, right? Phantom Analytics, because I'm really curious how that works. But I do think the whole world, like I get this whole idea of everything's for free, but if you're not paying anything for it in money, you're the product, right?
Yeah.
This is not a new concept.
Yeah.
But I've come up with an idea, I think, for a great way. Every time we talk to somebody, we come up with great ideas.
Yeah, this show is all about business ideas.
It's all about business ideas. I love this. I normally have a pen, but I left my pen upstairs. You've given me a great way to think about this in a way that I actually hadn't thought about before. Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit more information about like what's happening right now into the European Union regarding the law, like about Google Analytics? You thought about that, about the GDPR that kind of ban the use of Google fonts, like, because we've been very fast on that, but I think that's also a very important topic.
Yeah.
Can you like just give us a bit more information about that?
Yeah. So basically, there was just in the past weeks, there were court decisions in Austria, in the Netherlands, and I think in France it was the data watchdog who said something about it, where I don't know if it's already in law that it's banned to use Google Analytics, but definitely there were court decisions that are going in exactly this direction. Yeah. But here in the end, I think it's always it's possible to explain it very easily to website and online shop owners what they need to do to be able to be GDPR or in general data privacy compliant. Yeah? When you look at all these technologies, there is technically two things that are problematic. Yeah. One, you implement into your website any type of technology that allows third parties to collect data from your visitors. Yeah? And when we say data, it starts with the IP address, the user agent, the browsing behavior, and all this stuff. Yeah. So, and I would say the IP address is the most problematic stuff here. Yeah, because the IP address, together with the user agent, allows fingerprinting mechanisms to identify users. Yeah, even without cookies. Then. So this is the first thing. Yeah. So to look into the website, if you're using any type of technology that is in the front end building these connections to other servers, because then these other servers are, even if they don't do it, yeah, but technically they would be able to build profiles about your visitors. Yeah.
Yeah. Even if
so this is the first thing. Yeah. This is the first thing. Yeah. So look into who is collecting data on your website and where is it sent to. Then obviously you could also have something by yourself. You could have a server-side way of tracking stuff and sending it somewhere else. So if you're doing this already, but this is already very sophisticated, I would say today. So not so many people are doing this right now. But this is the direction of what we are doing with Qreuz. Yeah. So what are you from the backend side collecting in terms of data? And if you are doing it, first of all, what are you collecting? And then where are you sending it to? This may be a problem. So in the end, it's always about, do I help third parties to get any data from my visitors? Yeah, very, very simple concept. And if the answer is yes, then I need to ask my visitors before. Yeah, and this is the fundamental principle of these consent banners. But then when it comes to now, especially Google software, then there's a second layer of complexity here. Yeah, and because it's a US company. Yeah, and the problem here is that then they are also transmitting the data to the US. Yeah, so and here the problem is that as of today, we don't have a proper framework that would allow us to transfer customer data from Europe to the US without big legal complications. Yeah. And here, the latest legal decisions here in Europe when it comes to Google Fonts and Google Analytics were all about the transmission of data to the US. Yeah? And this is something that you cannot prevent. Yeah. And let's be honest, from a technical perspective. Yeah. So even if they implement stuff like we keep your data only on our European servers. Yeah. So in a crisis situation, it's one click and the data is in the US. Yeah. So this is obviously a very complicated situation, and I think here it's really upon the lawmakers to find some kind of solution for this. Yeah, because the internet lives from being open and being free and being have data being freely transmitting everywhere. And I think we need some kind of legal fundament where it's then not so complicated also to have data being transferred between the different continents. Yeah, but it's a complex topic. Yeah, so in the end, as I said, it's two things. Yeah, do I help third parties to track or to collect data from my visitors, and then do I transfer data outside of the European Union, especially in the European context?
And so you talked about the solution of doing that on the server side, right? Having
Yes.
like some kind of server side solution. And
Yes.
this is what you're doing at Qreuz, right? Like
Correct.
if I'm not mistaken, and you've been really quick on that, but I think that's a very interesting topic. Like how that would work if I do the trading on my server directly, and how can I still have a result of my Facebook ads campaign if I do all the tracking for me? Like how
Yes.
does Facebook can tell me what is working, and can I also still be doing we marketing campaign and keep like tapping on the shoulder of Michael now that I know that he won't watch it, right? So how
Leave me alone.
so is it still possible? How does that work? Like could you like walk us through this?
Yes. So yeah, that's exactly what we do at Qreuz. Yeah. So we have built a server-side way of tracking user interaction on the website. But this is not enough. Yeah. So the thing is, to be really data privacy compliant, we also have built our technology in a way that we are not collecting personal data of the visitors. Yeah. So that means we are not even collecting the IP address in the first place. And I also really like to highlight here the difference to the feature called IP anonymization of Google Analytics. When you activate this feature in Google Analytics, then there is still a direct connection between the visitor's browser and the server of Google. And then they say, okay, because you've activated the feature on our servers, we're going to remove the last octet of the IP address and replace it by a 0, which then, first of all, you have to trust them that they really do it and they don't have a duplicate copy of the full IP address somewhere. And second, even if you trust them, there is a chance of 1 in 254 that they can simply guess the IP address. Because if you simply replace the last octet, it's just 1 in 254 that you have the full IP address again.
So some of them could be zeros anyway to begin with.
No, the last cannot be a 0 in the visitor's IP address. It can only be 1 to 255. Yeah. In the internet connection, IP address it cannot be a 0.
It can't be 000. It can be 001. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
it doesn't go to 256. It just goes up because the 0 is the 0.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So this is first thing. Yeah. So what we are doing with our technology is, first of all, we have actually today we are announcing this. Yeah. So we have decided to completely open source all our technology. Yeah. Because we believe it's very important to make the whole tracking topic completely transparent and to have every website owner being able to see what's really going on. Yeah. So we have founded, we call it Open Tracking Protocol, which is our open source initiative where we are offering different bricks of software that help people also to install their own tracking system and their own tracking servers. Yeah. Which is technically something like a copy of our own Qreuz technology, but then in a way that you can operate it by yourself. Yeah? And our solution works in the first place with a tracking piece that works on your server, which already has this IP anonymization implemented. Yeah? So that means in the moment of accessing the IP address, of collecting it on your server already, you are anonymizing it. And we are giving you two different options. Yeah. So first of all, because it was just the industry standard until today, we are offering you the regular anonymization, which is simply replacing the last octet with a 0. But from our point of view, this is not enough. Yeah. So we are also giving you the option to replace the last 2 octets with a 0. Yeah. Which then increases the chance to guess the IP address to decrease to a very small amount. And our system in the end can work with both options, yeah, because in the end, the only thing why we still need to have some kind of information about the IP address is 2 things. We need to have some kind of mechanism to distinguish users, to know, okay, this is one user and this is the other user, but this is all happening on the server of the website already. And the second thing is we need to be able to somehow get information about the geography, so about where is this user actually coming from, so, and therefore you need at least 2 octets of the IP address to understand which country and which region the people are coming from. So this is the first tracking, the first brick of technology we have. So it's a fundamentally different way of tracking this data, and then you can do something with this data. So first of all, it's first party. So you as the website are collecting it, so it's your data. It's not a third party snippet on the front end trying to scrape data from the visitors. It's you actually collecting the data. So the data is yours, you own it, and you can do something with it. And this is now where our software as a service model as Qreuz comes into the game. We help you to do something with this data. Because obviously now what you want to do is you want to, for example, forward the data to Google Analytics to be able to analyze it, because it's a cool dashboard. It's a cool dashboard to help you to look at this data. And the funny thing is, when you then send the data over our system to Google Analytics, you still have it. You still can look at it. But Google won't have the IP address anymore. Google won't have the cookie information anymore. Google won't have any type of identifier which would help them to identify or to connect this with any internet user. It's a pure statistical dashboard, and you can simply purely look at your numbers without them being able to connect it to any type of other data they have. To help you with this, by the way, a small technical detail, we also have something we call privacy firewall, where you can in detail configure what data will really be sent to them. Because, for example, when it comes to ad network IDs, so may know them from Facebook, it's the FB-clit, from Google, it's the G-clit parameter that they're adding. If you would forward this parameter again to Google, they would have a potential data point they could connect to a real user again. So with our data privacy firewall, you can configure to forward it, to not forward it, depending on your specific need. And because, for example, in some countries, it may be okay to do, in some countries not. And then you asked about the question about conversion tracking and when it comes to marketing campaigns and understanding their performance. So there are 2 things. First of all, you want to be able to understand which marketing campaigns perform how and are good and are bad. For this, we have our own internal attribution logic, which helps you to understand which marketing campaigns have contributed to your success. And what we're doing here is actually going far beyond what you would see in the dashboard of Facebook or Google Ads. Because when you look at their dashboards, you would only see typically you would only see the last click attribution. You can also configure it differently, but very often they're only attributing the last click to be responsible for this purchase today. But now we all know it in e-commerce that people don't see an ad, click to it, go to the website, purchase. It takes more time. People have to at first learn about the item, then they are going to read about it. It takes weeks. It takes a longer time. So depending on the shop, I see many shops who say it takes around 2 weeks before people really purchase.
Right.
So, and now during these 2 weeks, your customers may have multiple touch points with you and with your ads and with your website, but it's very hard today to get the full funnel, and to understand which, especially in the early stages of the funnel, which campaigns are really responsible for my sales. So we have an attribution logic in our system where we give you a report about this. It helps you to especially learn much more about the early stage campaigns you're doing than you are able today. And second, we are then also offering our connectors to forward the tracking data to the ad networks again to help to do conversion tracking there. So, here it depends a little bit then on the specific configuration of your data privacy firewall, how much they're really able to connect and how much they're really able to attribute to the campaigns. But from my point of view, when it comes to the data privacy question about this, then I strongly believe that if people are, for example, using Facebook, then obviously they have already accepted the data privacy policy of Facebook, because otherwise they wouldn't be a user of Facebook. Yeah. So I strongly believe that if you are strictly staying within their ecosystem and not adding any new data to their database, then it should be okay to use this data, yeah, and to somehow also have it in your systems. But in the moment when you start to add new information to the Facebook algorithm, then it would be problematic. Yeah? And now to get to the last question with the remarketing. Yeah. So if you configure the Qreuz setup in the proper way, then the bad news is you cannot do remarketing anymore. Yeah. Because it's not possible to have an ad which is targeted to a person who has looked at a specific item on your online shop. It's not possible because we're not forwarding this information to the ad networks anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's bad news, we have to say, yeah, because even as a user, I have to say, I'm not a fan of these ads, but as an e-commerce experienced person, I have to say these ads work. Yeah, they sell, they work. Yeah. But the good news is that most ad networks have identified this problem and they have started to build solutions about it. And the easiest way to get around it is to simply migrate your remarketing campaigns away from targeting people who have visited your online shop and who have visited specific items to people who have clicked your ads. And this is something that, besides of Google display ads, any other ad network is already offering today. So when you go to Facebook, you can simply target people who have interacted with your posts, with your ads on Facebook or on Instagram. Yeah. So in the end, when you then also compare the audiences, it's not so big of a difference. Yeah. So because in the end, people click to the ad, go to the website, and then you're doing remarketing on people who have been to the website. But now you're not doing it anymore. You're simply doing remarketing on people who have clicked your ad. They have already, in this moment, expressed interest in your items. And this is then based on data, which is strictly within the system of Facebook, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. And
obviously, yeah.
So okay, I just want to say this, right? So here's what I think. We're really only like 20 years into this e-commerce revolution, yeah? And I really think that as consumers begin to get more savvy and figure out, right, what's happening actually on the back end, that more people will, like I know plenty of people that don't want to get retargeted at all, no matter how much e-commerce providers love it, right? And that solutions like this go part of the way to solving that problem, right? And that at some point, the annoying sellers are going to disappear because people are going to make a decision like, if I can get a same or similar product somewhere else, I'd rather get it from the people that make shopping comfortable as opposed to uncomfortable.
Right. It can be a key selling point as well. It can be a
key selling point, like
for the shops.
Like we won't retarget you, so there's no annoyance. Come to my site. We won't annoy you, kind of thing.
Exactly.
Powered by.
We actually are right now working on a trust sign we want to offer as Qreuz, where we're doing a checkup of the website and then we're offering them a trust symbol they can use in the shop to express exactly this. Yeah. So because in the end, obviously, also visitors, even though they see the cookie banners on all the websites, yeah. So I would guess that most of them would not necessarily recognize, oh my God, there was no cookie banner right now on the website. Yeah. So I think it's a good thing to show them and say, hey, by the way, did you recognize there was no cookie banner? Yeah, because we don't collect this data from you.
Okay.
That's awesome.
Okay.
I feel like we're going to go on for hours on this topic.
Let's do this. Matthias Reinholz, the CEO and the founder of Qreuz. It was great to have you on the show. Really appreciate it. We'll have to have you back.
Yeah, we have to.
Too much to talk about.
You need to talk to Bangkok and we
do it in person.
Sometime, yeah.